Welcome to our Sleepy Hollow Fire Protection District meeting. I am your chairman, Frank Berto. This is Tom Finn and Shortall. We have a very supportive three-man board for which I'm very grateful. At this point, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Finn, who has some things to say.
Thank you, Frank. Just before we get started, let's talk about some ground rules. They'll be virtually identical to the April 6th meeting. You'll see shortly what the agenda includes, and that will be our roadmap to the meeting. Everyone will have their chance to speak, perhaps multiple times, but we're going to do it as follows. There'll be a public comment period that follows as soon as I finish speaking. That's for people to talk on topics that are not on the agenda. Since the agenda has to do with the project, what you are allowed to speak about can be anything other than the project. Your comments about the project will follow later in the meeting after we've had a chance to make our presentation. Based upon the media that has followed the story, including the Community Media Center of Marin that's here filming today, let's all try to keep our comments relevant and respectful of one another. So if you're feeling festive or restive or visceral or cerebral, just be respectful towards your neighbors. We will, during the comment periods, give everybody a chance to comment once before we go around for a second time. All right? If you would just silence your electronic devices, since we're being filmed for television purposes, I'd appreciate that. And then I think the time has come, Rich, to open the floor to public comment on any items not on the agenda. Anyone who wishes to make a statement on something not on the agenda? Seeing none, let's move on to item 3.
Nope, somebody's...
Sorry?
No. I was just indicating to John.
Hello, Bob.
I thought you were bidding.
No. I don't have a sign.
Auction going on here.
Let's next move on to item 3, which is board announcements, updates, future agenda items. And I'll lead that off because you may have noticed the last few days quite a lot of smoke in the air around here. And if you didn't know, that has to do with a large fire complex in Mendocino County. The smoke is blowing our way. In fact, there are big fires burning all up and down the state. So many so that a number of our fire department personnel from the Ross Valley Fire Department have been sent out on strike teams to fires up and down the state, including the Bald Fire, the Oregon Gulch Fire, and the Lodge Complex Fire, which is in Oregon. And the Lodge Complex Fire is significant because even our Chief Mills, has been requested to come to that fire. He is qualified as a federal incident commander, and therefore he's a highly sought after expert. So we're not undermanned. People are covering shifts with overtime, but our fire department is being stretched right now. Rich, anything that you'd like to?
No, I think that's it.
All right, and then other updates, agenda items, announcements. Oh, I have one more. The November election is coming up. I believe it's on November 4th or November 2nd. I can't recall. Just to let you know, we've submitted all of the documentation. Thank you, November 4th, Connie. We've submitted all of our documentation necessary to hold the election with respect to items that concern us. That includes the renewal of the paramedic tax, which we have expressed our support for. That includes the Marin Emergency Radio Authority bond measure, which we've expressed our support for. And we've confirmed the district boundaries for the county as is required. So we're good to go for the election. Yes, please, go ahead.
Oh, so next one we actually have a guest here whose time is a little bit limited. That's Battalion Chief Jim Hansen from the fire department. I received a call from the fire department recently asking if they could come and give us a briefing and make a request relative to the latest fire flow project that's going on. So Chief Hansen, you can come on up. Or from there, wherever you're comfortable.
Yeah. For those of you that may not be aware, there's a fire flow project which improves water mains, hydrants, etc. in the residential areas and commercial areas of Marin that's administered by the Marin Fire Chiefs Association. And a lot of those upgrades are identified by each local fire department on a cyclical basis. And in 2010, we updated our plan, which included your neighborhood. And in that plan, upgrades are being completed by that fire flow fund. And we found a gap of just one single stretch that wasn't currently completed in that section. And what we're asking of the fire board is to approve funds needed up to a maximum of $25,000. The project may come in less for one additional hydrant of a stretch on Fawn Drive.
Is there any questions about that from anybody? As everybody probably realizes, we've made this clear a lot of times, over the years we've funded hydrant replacements frequently at the request of the fire department. Some hydrant replacement is done as part of the MMWD replacement program. We'll talk a little more about that later. But sometimes that's not enough, so we have a request for one more hydrant. If there's no further questions, yes?
My name's Carol Page and I live at 70 Fawn, and that's where you're proposing to put a hydrant. The only thing I would like to be sure gets into the records of this plan is the fact that this is immediately adjacent to a very large Ross Valley sanitary access point for their vacuuming and cleaning of the entire system up Fawn and down to Butterfield. It is also a major access for the county crews to go down into the creek because there is a very big culvert there that gets blocked in the heavy creek conditions. And so trees can jam this way across the culvert and block it. So they have to get into the creek, they can't get in on the other side, they have to go in from the side. So those are important access points to consider. The other problem is that people back into the creek all the time there. So when you had your creek cleanup, I asked them to leave the tree stumps there to block people from backing down that bank. So it's a kind of a problem area with some special circumstances. I would like to have the hydrant go in. We all want more fire flow. I endorse the project. But I would like you to be aware that there are circumstances there that affect other agencies, and I hope they will be fully coordinated in this process. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And, before I leave, I'd like to connect with you just to make sure that your concerns are represented with Argonaut, who's going to be the licensed contractor that handles that. Okay.
Yeah, if I could just say one thing too, the hydrant that we're talking about right now is not that hydrant. They are replacing the fire mains, which are also the domestic water supply. They are either adding or replacing some existing hydrants, which is the one that Daryl's talking about. This is for another hydrant, an additional one, which is actually going to be further up on the farm. But I'm glad you guys are going to get together to address that area. Any other questions? If there's not, I'd actually like to make a resolution to support funding of the additional hydrant that's being requested by the fire department.
The only problem, Rich, is that it's not on the agenda.
Okay.
So we're going to have to defer that to a meeting, but it fits right under the heading of future agenda items. So we'll do that. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, any more updates? Rich? Sorry.
We have several of them, so bear with us. The next one, which we're really pretty excited about, is we have a new website. This website is a big improvement from the old one. I was looking at the site today, and I see they're in transition, so it actually may be up later today, hopefully Monday at the latest. It is designed by a company called XMR Fire Emergency Service Consulting, so it is specifically designed for the fire service and agencies like ours. So I think you'll find it to be actually graphically much more interesting, much easier to find your way around. It has one feature that I've wanted for the longest time. It's the subscribe feature. You hit the button, enter your information, and from that point forward, anything new that goes on the website, a meeting notice, a minutes, an agenda, a project update, or whatever, is automatically sent to you. So this really streamlines a lot of the issues about how do I get information and so forth. So take advantage of that. Meeting announcements, there's news updates on there, documents are easier to locate, easier to follow the major projects. There'll be more financial information with audits and so forth eventually posted. And then a lot of fire prevention information and links that are on there. So please take advantage of that. Take a look at it. Bear with us, it'll be another day or two, I think, before it's up. We're very close. which leads me really to the second part of the update, and I'll just kind of walk around and hand these out real quick as I'm talking here. And this is, if you could pass down the road, this is for a chipper day, and I think everybody's somewhat familiar with the concept. This is a letter which is going to go to all the residents in the fire district. I believe it's going to be sent out on Monday. Not only will you get this letter, but in much glossier, really much cooler format, a tremendous fire prevention brochure that has been customized for Sleepy Hollow comes along with it. It's the best one I've ever seen by far. And it has a lot of information down in there about defensible space that's understandable, about making changes in the landscaping that you do, and what they call hardscaping, and on and on and on. It's a great document, great pictures, some pictures of Sleepy Hollow in there, very customized what we're doing here, and that goes along with it. And the goal of all of that is that when you get your letter, okay, chipper day, what's that all about? Well, basically, most chipper days involve people having to remove vegetation from their property, put it in a truck, and drive it to a remote site to be chipped. That's what they do in most of the Ross Valley. What we're proposing is a little bit different. What we want you to do is read information about how to effectively make your home safe, defensible space and all that. Take the steps necessary for that, and then all you need to do is stack the material in front of your home, and it will be picked up and chipped on the spot. We're going to have John Hanley's here, and he'll talk to you a little bit later about some other things, but John Hanley sponsors and leads a group called Youth to Work, which are youth from Marin County, many of them from Sleepy Hollow. They'll be the ones who actually pick the stuff up and shove it in the chipper. Most of you know that there's a tree service company called Small World, which keeps their stuff down there in San Domenico. They're going to provide the truck and chipper for the program. And basically what you're going to do is, if you're interested in it, you go to our website. You sign up through the website. It's very simple, so we know what your address is. And then John and his crew will come by on Sunday morning, August 24th, pick the stuff up, chip it, and it goes to the Marin Recycling Center and off to the cogeneration plant for reburning and all this. So it's a pretty exciting composting. And some of it goes to the all 100% composting.
So the point.
Anyway, going to recycle. So I think it's a good program. I think it's worth taking advantage of. And really, this is the first year of this. We may even do it one more time this year when the creek cleanup day comes. We didn't want to advertise both dates initially because we weren't sure, but this is getting started, and in future years there'll be more of this, and I think it's a very good program. And I do want to thank a lot of people who helped on this. Todd Lando, who's from what they call Fire Safe Marin. It's actually giving us a grant, $1,500 to help fund the program. His group also helped design the website. Katie Rice, our supervisor, was very involved in planning for this and very supportive. John Hanley, Youth to Work, Small World Tree Service, and then the Homeowners Association is at their meeting the other night. We briefed on this, and they're going to do their best to get the word out too. So if you're not part of all that, get the word out. You got the letter, take advantage of the program. Go to the website, sign up. Any questions? Okay.
John, other announcements?
So I would like to, one of the things that's been an important topic is fire road maintenance. And a big project was just completed this week by John Hanley's group. So John, if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving us an update on the San Domenico Fire Road Repair Project.
Hi, my name is John Hanley, and I'm a retired firefighter from San Francisco, and I started this Youth to Work. That's our kids. And let me start with there's a rumor going around that Marin kids don't like to work. That's false. Let me tell you that's false. So this is a nonprofit with no overhead, and I don't have any flyers to hand you or anything like that. But we get contracts with the Marin County Parks, the Water District, Triple C Ranch, and we put the kids to work. We're very diversified. We've had a couple girls from Harvard working for us from our community, and then guys who didn't do so well in high school working for us. We've had Drake's basketball team, state championship was working for us, and then, you know, it's wide open. So and these are our kids. We're just the same as the Conservation Corps, but it's Marin kids. We've done creek cleanup. So, to the point of the matter is, that fire road, as you next to the horse stables, couldn't get up it. It was impossible. Impossible. Fire engines could not get up. And when you see those roads, so if they can't get up it, then they can't make a stop on that ridge line. And that's our early warning system. They got to make a stop on the ridge line. And then that's like you see planes up and down the coast, the Strategic Air Command, they go up and down our coast at 4 and 3 in the morning. That's what the firefighters use as their stop point if a fire comes this way, or if it's going that way to protect Lucas Valley. So we couldn't get up there, fire engines couldn't get up there. So what we did is Terry Keats, a construction guy from Sleepy Hollow, we got his tractor and then we got gravel and we paved that road. Some might not think it looks nice and cute, but if you play the fire game, it's a defensible space and we got access. So now fire engines can get up that road, even the engines that come to your house. It doesn't have to be 4-wheel drive. So when a fire hits, you'll have 5 engines shoot up that road and they'll set up a perimeter to keep the fire coming this way if we got an easterly wind. And answer any of the questions. So anyway, our kids' youth to work, we're doing the gravel moving along with the tractor. So it's very successful and you got access.
Just one added note on that, I do want to thank Connie Berto for not only calling that issue to our attention, but she worked with John in San Domenico School over there to make sure that everybody was on board and we're all on the same page of this. And then obviously the fire board funded all of that work. So we're very happy with that.
Is that the fire road that's right opposite the baseball diamond?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that was really eroded.
Yeah.
There were deep crevices in the bottom
Right.
200 meters of the road
Right.
that made it impassable. John's group, in a single morning and a half, went up and filled the crevices with gravel, tamped it all down. It's easily drivable now by a fire apparatus.
More walkable.
Yes, too.
A historical perspective, if you remember about 6-7 years ago, they were having fires in Sleepy Hollow, if you remember, and that road was accessible. And Cal Fire even brought in planes to stop it. But we could get up it then, fire trucks and which was their access point. A week and a half ago, you couldn't get up it if there was a fire there. And then we got headaches. So it's all set now.
Thanks, John.
Well done, well done.
Okay. And one more thing, one request that has come up with before has been questions about the Pacific Gas and Electric natural gas distribution system and whether or not it's safe. And I said that I was concerned about that and that I plan to meet with PG&E and the fire department to do an investigation of what the status is and so forth. So I did that. And last week I met with Battalion Chief Dave Saskiowski from our fire department here, and a man named James Wickham, who's in a new division of PG&E, which is called, I have to read this, Emergency Preparedness and Public Awareness Division. It was a very productive meeting, went on for several hours, and I have a written report which I'm going to post on the website. I'm not going to read it, and I'm not going to go through excruciating detail, but I will hit the high points of it for you. And if you want to know more, it'll be there, or you can give me a call about it. But basically, in the simplest level, the natural gas system has 2 main ways of distributing gas. One is big pipes called transmission lines, which deliver gas like up to 900 pounds. They're huge pipes, 42-inch and so forth. And then what is basically called the distribution system, which is what we have under our streets here in Sleepy Hollow. I think everybody's aware that the pipe which exploded in San Bruno was one of the big transmission lines. There are no big transmission lines in Sleepy Hollow or near Sleepy Hollow. It's all just lower pressure, 40-50 PSI distribution lines. They are made of both steel and plastic. Most of the main lines that go down the streets out here are maybe 2, 3, 4 inches thick in diameter, and they're mostly made of steel, and coming off of them to each of your houses are lines that are mostly plastic. The reason for the plastic lines is, believe it or not, the new plastic lines are actually better than the old steel lines. They're not subject to corrosion, they're a little bit flexible, and they have a longer duration. Doesn't mean the steel's unsafe, It just means the newer technology favors the installation of those. There is a concern about it. The first generation of plastic pipe that came out was called Paddle A. This was made in the early 70s. That has been shown to be more crack prone than the later generations of that. It doesn't mean that it's a huge hazard. It depends on where it's installed, it depends on how the earth moves in there, it depends on a zillion factors that are out there. But the fact of it is that PG&E has a program to replace that. We do have some of that in Sleepy Hollow. There's about 3,000 feet of it in here. It's mostly on the smaller lines that are the branch lines, and they are replacing that. Another question was, does PG&E have maps that show all of this? Yes. We were showing the maps, both hard copies of the maps, and then all the mapping is actually available on computers, and every one of the gas repair trucks and distribution guys and all the rest of that, they all have all the information in their rates at all times available to them. The maps are surprisingly detailed. I mean, they show where the lines are, they show when they're installed, they show the pressure that they show what they're made out of, so they're quite detailed, and that you should have a lot of confidence that PG does know where all the lines are. Then the question came up about valves. Does it know where the valves are? It does know where the valves are. We saw the maps of the valves, but you have to understand, this gets a little bit technical, so I'll try to make it very brief. The goal of the gas distribution system, much like electrical, is to try to keep people receiving gas all the time so that their houses can stay in service. If you start shutting off valves, obviously people are not going to have gas. And if you shut down a relatively wide area, there's that much more of it. Valves also have another problem. They're much more prone to leaks than the hard pipe. So the way the system is designed, it's a gridded system. That means gas is flowing in different directions to all parts of the system so that it can stay in service even if there's a leak. It is possible for PG&E, they have pre-planned approaches to determining which valves need to be shut off if there's a major leak. We saw that, we were showing how they work, and we were showing them on maps, and they were showing where they were located. They know what they're doing with this. As an example, if you wanted to shut off the gas at Sleepy Hollow, it's fairly complicated. There's actually 7 valves that need to be shut off, and they're not all sitting right next to each other. They're spread around quite a bit, because we have gas coming over the hills, we have gas coming in this way, we have gas coming in that way, so it's a fairly complicated system. But they know where it is, they know what they're doing, they pre-plan for all of this. So what do they do when we have a leak out here? We had 2 leaks here in Sleepy Hollow recently. That's not unusual. In talking with Chief Staskiowski, they get 1 or 2 gas leaks a month. It does happen. And basically the solution is not to turn off 7 valves and shut down Sleepy Hollow to make the repair, because the amount of gas that's coming out is actually relatively small. If the gas is burning, that's actually even better, believe it or not. We used to do this in San Francisco all the time, because that means you're not going to have an accumulation of gas, it's flaring and burning off. What they do is they come in, they know where the pipes are, they have the maps, they dig down relatively quickly, and they clamp the pipe. When the clamp is piped, everybody else stays in service, they fix the leak, they turn the gas back on by removing the clamps, and it's back in service without having to turn off lines to anybody else. It is much faster for them to dig down and clamp the pipe than it is to turn off valves. One of the problems with valves is when you turn them off, there's still a ton of gas left in the system. That all has to bleed down. That could be hours. When they get in, they get down the pipe, it's much quicker than that.